Hello my friends, welcome back to Taking Style Personally. This is my YouTube channel where I talk all things sustainable and attainable style, and today we're going to talk about some musings for spring. I wrote about my musings for spring for Substack, which I will link for you. What I want to cover in this video is touching on my key themes for the season, colors, textures, and silhouettes that I'm interested in. I might even get into some of the items on my spring wish list. I think I will try to do a totally separate video on that because once I get talking about clothes, I can just keep on going until the cows come home. And I really do feel like inspiration and wish list are two very separate things in my mind. So I might mention a couple things here and there, but I do still plan on doing a full video talking about the spring wish list. I would never want to lie to you, my friends. I'm feeling a little bit scrambled today. I've been trying to sit down and shoot this video for the better part of 4 hours. And now that I'm finally sat here and I've got my tea and I've got my notes and I've got my laptop with my mood board on it, I've got all the tools I need to keep me on track, and I'm still feeling just a little bit, things are feeling just a little chaotic. So I'm going to do my very best to stay on track and get these ideas across because I'm feeling really excited about them. Spring, I think, is, if I had to choose one, if I had to choose a favorite season, if I had no choice but to decide on one favorite, I think I would choose spring. My favorite season is always the next one, which is something that I mentioned in my newsletter. And I really love the transitions. I love the anticipation and the excitement and the yearning for the next season. I think those are always my favorite kind of parts of the year, is when one season is handing off to another. And the winter to spring transition is my very favorite. I love how bright it feels, and I always feel really hopeful. I feel really inspired at this time of year, and I notice there are a lot of similarities in my styling notes and my ideas between spring and fall. Like, it's quite similar, the weather's quite similar where I live in the Pacific Northwest. But spring has just a different flavor to it that I really, really like. So I always start each season by talking about the colors, textures, and silhouettes that I'm feeling inspired by. That's how I break down any inspiration that crosses my desk, whether it's an idea, an outfit I see on Pinterest, an item I see. I'm always thinking about the colors, the textures, and the silhouettes, and the tension between those elements or the harmony between those elements. And it's really helped me to develop really clear language and understanding around why I like what I like, which I think is probably the best thing that you can do. If you're looking to develop your personal style and looking to make more sustainable choices, looking to connect with what you already own, and looking to have your own individual take on inspiration and ideas, I really believe that developing the ability to investigate your interests and be able to articulate why you like what you like is the most powerful tool that you have. Because once you know why you like what you like, you're able to apply that knowledge to anything and everything. And it creates some space between, ooh, I like that thing, and that urge that is so deeply ingrained in all of us now, that urge to buy that thing once you see that you like it. When in reality, it's very rarely about the thing. I mean, that's a bigger conversation for another day, but that space between your inspiration or your desire and yourself, I think, is really, really valuable. And I talk about this a lot with clients. I've talked about this in videos before. But I really do feel like that beat, that breath between, ooh, I like that thing, and how you choose to move forward is where a lot of the really powerful work happens when it comes to dressing for yourself, dressing for your life, and making, like I said, more sustainable, more informed choices. So when it comes to color, I have a baseline palette, my personal color story, that I work with all the time. And I update it occasionally. I most recently updated it this past fall for the fall-winter season. And the actual baseline aspect of this palette doesn't change very much season over season, year over year. It's pretty much stayed the same since I created it, I think, back in 2022. These are the colors that I like to wear, that I think look good on me, and that I like together. And then I also always have some wild cards. Those are colors that I'm just feeling particularly and specifically inspired by. Sometimes they're colors that are new to my palette that I don't currently own and I want to maybe acquire something. And sometimes they're colors that already exist in my palette that I just want to highlight or focus on. For fall and winter, these are my wild card colors. I got a ton of wear out of teal. I'm actually literally wearing it right now. You might read a bit more navy on camera, but it's kind of a almost navy, almost teal in person, and I love it. I wear it all the time. I also got a ton of wear out of this really 90s inspired turquoise, and I didn't end up adding any oxblood or pale pink to my wardrobe for winter, which is pretty common for me. Something that I talk about a lot when I talk about my wish list is that it's not a shopping list like the way that your grocery list is. I'm not approaching my wish list or my inspiration with the idea that I need to acquire all of it. These are just the ideas that are kind of top of mind for me, and I'm trying to find creative ways to incorporate them through styling what I already have, and I'm keeping them on my radar for when I'm out thrifting or when I'm making things. I really want to make more clothes this year. And so these are just the ideas that I'm keeping top of mind. This doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna go out and buy all of these things that I'm mentioning in the video, if that makes sense. So I didn't end up adding any oxblood or pale pink to my wardrobe for winter. I'm not really feeling inspired by or drawn to oxblood for spring the way that I was for fall and winter. If I come across something great at the thrift that I think makes sense for my wardrobe, I'll definitely still look at adding it. Oxblood is on the back burner for the season. I removed it from my palette and from my wild cards. And I also removed the teal and the turquoise colors, but I added them to my main baseline palette because I am just getting so much wear out of them. They're just a part of the crew now. But pale pink I never managed to incorporate over the fall and winter, and I am still fascinated, dare I say obsessed. I'm just so interested in the way that this color interacts with some of my baseline classics. I love the way that it looks with red. I love the way that it looks with chocolate brown. I love the way that it looks with navy, with gray. Like the colors that I lean on the most, I think would all look really great with pale pink. I don't like the way pale pink looks on me. It's probably not something I would buy in a top. But I'm really into the idea of a pale pink pair of pants. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. And I feel like that's something that I could easily make. So that's on the DIY list for the season. I'm also really into the idea of adding pink through accessories. Maybe a bag, maybe some fluffy socks. Kind of the same ideas that I had for winter that I talked about in my winter musings video. Those ideas are all still marinating, still cooking. And I'm still feeling inspired by them, so they stay for this season. The other colors that I want to highlight this season are both blues, and for me, blue in general is a huge part of my palette. I wear a ton of blue, I wear a ton of different shades. I don't get very specific about it because there's really only a handful of shades of blue that I would avoid personally. I just really love it as a color, and I reach for it all the time, whether it's denim or navy or cobalt. Like, I just love it. And there are 2 specific shades of blue that I don't really have in my wardrobe right now that I'm feeling really drawn to and really inspired by. So I want to try to acquire or make some pieces in these colors. The first is Dutch blue. I really like something that feels a little bit chalky, a little bit smoky, a little bit dusty. This outfit stopped me in my tracks, and I've since become obsessed with the idea of a dusty Dutch blue windbreaker jacket. This is also something that I might look at DIYing if I'm feeling really brave and if I could find the right fabric. The other blue that I'm particularly into is like a twilight blue. something that's navy adjacent, but maybe more indigo than navy, not quite as dark as navy. And it's got just the barest hint of a purple tinge to it. I think this is a really beautiful color, and because I lean on navy so much, I think navy's probably my most worn neutral, and I feel like I would just get so much wear out of something navy adjacent. And again, I really like the way that those blues pair with my baseline palette. That's always, I think, the thing that most excites me about wildcard colors, and that's usually why I feel drawn to a color, is because I feel like it'll look good with the colors that I already wear, and I get excited about a combination that I had maybe not thought of before with my palette. Another one that I'm feeling really drawn to that's both a color and also falls into the texture category is silver. I'm really into a metallic moment, something unexpected. Like, I've been seeing these laminated metallic socks. I am obsessed. Or a metallic bag. I've been creeping around online fabric stores to try to hunt down a metallic finish linen to maybe make like a metallic pair of pants. I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna factor in yet, but silver is definitely on my radar as a color and the metallic finish as a texture. So let's talk about the textures I'm into. For spring, I feel like there are some classics that I return to year over year that just feel so at home during transitional weather that I'll probably always come back to. I'm talking vintage sweats, like cotton loopback terry. Bonus points if the cuffs and collars have got some fraying happening. I also always come back to denim at this time of year. All different colors of denim. I really love a classic distressed mid-wash blue. There's just nothing better, frankly. I'm also super into a faded black. I've got 2 pairs of faded black jeans, and I really like playing with those at this time of year. I also always think about really crisp cotton poplin, especially when it's wrinkled and rumpled and lived in. That's peak spring for me. And I also think a lot about glossy water repellent textures at this time of year because I live in the Pacific Northwest. It's wet as hell in the spring, and I'm always drawn to like a glossy raincoat or something like a vinyl finish, something that's got a little bit of shine to it. So those are the more classic spring textures that I'm always coming back to year after year. And then moving more into the kind of more fun, more freaky textures for the season, I'm really into rhinestones, kind of particularly rhinestone jewelry, but I also am open to the idea of maybe some rhinestone applique on a garment. It would have to be the right, like the perfect application, but you know, I'm open. I'm into shine. I'm into a little bit of sparkle, but juxtaposed against that busted denim or something that feels really casual, really lived in, like a pair of paint splattered jeans or a ratty old sweatshirt with a rhinestone necklace. I just think that that's really interesting, and I've been into that for a few seasons now. On a similar note, I'm also into sequins and kind of larger scale sequins like paillettes, especially when they interact with knitwear. I think it's really, really interesting. I'm not really sure how I imagine that through my own wardrobe, but it's something that's on my radar. It's an idea that I'm interested in, and it might take a couple of seasons for that to really mature and kind of ripen, but right now it's a little seed of interest. I'm also still really into feathers. That was something I talked about for winter as well. And I think the thing that I want to DIY for spring is a feather brooch. That also, I think, is the way that I want to incorporate light pink. I feel like I talked about that in my winter video, and that idea has just kind of been swirling in my mind. A lot of the ideas for spring are iterations of the ideas that I had for winter, which were iterations of the ideas that I had for fall and for summer and for last spring. Like, these things, I think personally for me, the more time you spend with an idea and the more opportunities that idea has to interact with other elements already at play in your wardrobe and in the bigger picture of your style, I feel like the cooler they get. I think that's it for specific textures. The overarching theme for me for texture when I look through this Pinterest mood board and when I really think about what I'm craving when I'm getting dressed, I'm really craving and longing for textures that feel as good as they look. And I'm longing for pieces and textures that feel lived in, like they have a story to tell. I've been getting a ton of wear out of my paint splattered Carhartt pants. And I feel like now that the weather's warming up, I'm going to be reaching for my distressed denim jacket a lot. Things that feel like they've lived a life are really interesting to me right now. And I notice on my mood board that a lot of the outfits that I've pinned have a little bit of that rough and tumble element. They look lived in, they don't look perfectly styled. I'm also feeling really into intentionally wrinkled and crinkled fabrics. I just think that there's something so interesting about that. It's time to talk about silhouette, which is an area that I really want to push my boundaries in. I've been saying this for a while, but I really want to bring in some more sculptural elements. I'm really into like a high neckline. I'm really into the idea of a windbreaker jacket that zips all the way up and has almost like a bit of a funnel neck. I think that that's really cool. Now that my hair is getting a little longer too and it can kind of tuck inside, I feel like that's always an interesting styling opportunity. My wardrobe currently consists of basically one silhouette, which is loose and slouchy, and I want to see what else I can create within that and also maybe push outside of that. Okay, I'm sorry for the abrupt drop in video quality. The camera overheated, so here I am on iPhone. I'm hoping I'll be able to shoot more with the camera in a minute. But while it's cooling down, I really want to talk to you about a pattern that I am obsessed with at the moment. I'm really into Harlequin. And I notoriously don't really wear prints or patterns aside from stripes. I never met a stripe I didn't like, but outside of that, I don't really reach for prints or patterns often. I'll see them and really think they're beautiful, and I'll even sometimes bring them home from the thrift, but they usually go unworn. I had a very brief love affair with Realtree camo a couple years back, but that fizzled out and I'm not really into it these days. Stripes have been with me my whole life and I don't see them going anywhere. I appreciate a beautiful floral, but I just don't really wear them. So it's very unusual for me to be so taken with a pattern, but I have been steadily falling more and more in love with a Harlequin print over the last few years. It first started with these pants by Archive Craft. I saw these, I want to say in 2021, and they blew my mind. I just think they're the coolest, and I have probably thought about them minimum once a week since then. And so it's just been on my radar for a while. These Baba sweaters, this skirt I saw on Instagram. It's been marinating, it's been cooking, and I've recently decided that I'm super on board. Sometimes it takes me a long time to get from being interested in something to being on board with something, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna try and switch back to the good camera now. Okay, now that we have talked through color, texture, silhouette for spring, I want to move on to other bits, bobs, etc. that I'm feeling inspired by. First thing on the list is stars as a motif. This is an idea that's carried over for quite a few seasons now. And very tragically, my iconic chubby star charm necklace that I thrifted broke a while back. And so I've been missing it. This is something I've been thinking about for a while. Maybe it's a hair accessory. Maybe I replace my star charm. Maybe I find a garment with stars on it. I'm not sure how this is going to play out just yet, but it's something on my radar. There have been a few words that have come up for me when I've been thinking about how I want to feel in my clothes and the kind of energy that I want to embody. One of them is simplicity, and this is also one of my long-time style keywords. I really like simple outfits. I'm not super into a lot of layers. I don't like anything to feel fussy. I always like to be comfy. I always want things to feel easy. And for me, when my outfits are simple, is when they feel the best. So that's a word that I really want to focus on. Another word that I'm thinking about a lot is asymmetry. I'm not sure how well this is going to read on camera, but I've got my mismatched silver drop earrings today. And I really like asymmetry in general. I do this mismatched earring trick all the time. I love it. And I also want to play more with asymmetry in clothing. There were a few images from winter that were really inspiring to me when one cuff was tucked into socks and the other was left out. I like that idea. Even the idea of adding a bracelet over top of one sleeve and not the other. Just subtle moments like that, I think, add so much visual interest. And it's something that I always feel drawn to, so I want to lean into it. Another thing I'm feeling really into is hair accessories. As I have mentioned probably 1 million times at this point, I am going through the grueling process of growing out a French bob. And hair accessories are a tool that I had previously not tapped into at all, whether it's a headband or a claw clip or a barrette. I've been using hair accessories almost every day, and I feel like I don't have very many that actually feel like they align with my style. So I'm really interested in the idea of finding something beautiful and sculptural to hold my hair. Maybe it's one of these kind of interesting silver clips or bun holders or hair pins. Maybe it's a French pin. Maybe it's just a more chic claw clip. Okay, believe it or not, the camera overheated again. And I think that's as good a sign as any that it's time to wrap things up. So the final thought, the final idea that I want to leave you with is that you do not need an entirely new wardrobe or a whole bunch of new items just because the seasons are changing. I really hope that this video and all of the videos that I create around personal style will leave you feeling inspired and empowered to connect with what you already have and to investigate your interests so that you are able to translate those interests and inspirations through your own lens. I encourage all of you to view your inspiration through color, texture, and silhouette and see what common threads exist between those elements. Maybe it will illuminate some connections in your wardrobe that you hadn't previously seen. I will be back soon with my spring wish list. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more sustainable and attainable style.